Hello friends, let's junk journal together. Hello, welcome back to the Primrose Corner. Today I thought it would be fun if we sat down and did a little craft together. I am going to be working on my travel junk journal, but feel free to grab your own journal or whatever creative project you've got going on. Or just sit back, relax, and you can keep me company while we chat. Recently, my family and I took a little adventure to the city of Vienna. It's about a 5-hour drive from where we live, so kind of like a road trip to a different state. Here I'm going to put down a little bit of washi tape just for the background. While we were there, I purchased 2 cute little watercolor postcards at the first palace we visited. So I'm using the paper bag from that purchase at the top of my page here, and it's just a really pretty color. Our very first stop was the Schönbrunn Palace. I hope I'm saying that right. Since it's no longer home to emperors and empresses, they have converted the palace into a museum. We learned all about the last rulers of the empire, including the famous Empress Sissi. There's a Netflix show about her. I think it's on its 2nd season. I've only watched the 1st season so far, though. The palace grounds were beautiful, and we even got to go to the world's oldest zoo. It's right there on the palace grounds. They say that the Empress used to sit out there with her children in the mornings, and they would just kind of hang out and enjoy the animals and enjoy breakfast, which sounds like so much fun. Here's a little peek at what we got up to that day. So now I'm going to use my Canon Ivy to print some pictures from my phone. It's so convenient. If you've seen my reading journal video about how I journal my reading hobby, then you will have seen this before and how I use it. This time I'm going to be printing 2 pictures per page just to save on space, and I don't need the pictures to be super huge, but it is super convenient because it's actually printing directly onto sticker paper, like a glossy sticker paper. so I can just peel off the backing paper and then stick it right down onto the page without having to glue anything. On the second day of our trip, we did quite a bit of wandering around the downtown area. We started off in the morning at the, I'm really going to butcher this, Kunsthistorisches Museum, which felt like a mini version of the Louvre in Paris, and in my opinion, a lot more manageable. The artwork was incredible, but the building itself was so beautiful. It was just stunning. The architecture and the painting on the ceilings and the sculpture work, like they were just sculpted things everywhere. It was really beautiful. They had the famous Tower of Babel painting, which I actually bought an art print from, and they even had a few Raphaels. We spent the rest of the day walking around and seeing as much as we could. We saw multiple cathedrals and actually the most breathtaking Austrian National Library. It literally looks like the library from the animated version of Beauty and the Beast. I just loved it. It was so cool. I could set up a tent and live in there. It had hidden staircases and secret bookcase doors. It truly felt magical in there, and obviously I loved it as a book nerd. Here is some footage of what we got up to on the second day of our trip. Okay, so I wanted the lettering on this page to have a watercolor effect. And an easy way that I do this is to get out my Caran d'Ache watercolor pencils. I believe they're called Museum Aquarelle is the type. You use them just like a normal colored pencil, but if you paint over them in water, then it turns it into a watercolor. They're super fun. They're so easy to use. I also drew in some florals because Vienna was just covered in flowers while we were there. It was beautiful, just roses everywhere. I used my Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2 pastels, which are one of my favorite art supplies to do the florals. They also convert to a watercolor look if you paint over them with water, so that's what I did here. On the final day of our trip, we drove out to the Belvedere Palace. It was really windy and cloudy in the morning, so we decided to start off inside before looking at the garden. The palace had been converted into an art museum, and they had lots of different pieces, including Monet and Van Gogh, who are two of my favorites. But the most famous exhibit in there is actually the pieces by the artist Klimt. Klimt is how you spell his name. His most famous work is titled The Kiss, and it is made out of real gold, platinum, and silver. I didn't understand what the hype was all about until we saw it in person, and then it was awe-inspiring. It was beautiful and really stunning, and you just can't really capture how pretty it is on camera. You kind of have to see it in person. But my personal favorite in that museum was the statue they had of Cupid and Psyche. I think it's Psyche. They had a statue of the same two people in the Louvre also, which ended up also being my favorite, but they're in different positions. But anyways, I should probably look up their story and get the details behind the sculpture, because obviously it has been an inspiration for multiple artists. We ended our trip with a little walk around the Belvedere Gardens, and the sun had actually come out for a minute, so it was really lovely. Here is a little peek at some of the architecture and artwork that we saw on our last day. Since the Empress Sissi was so prominently featured in a lot of the history we learned, I wanted to draw her in my style in the journal. Unfortunately, I didn't leave myself a whole lot of space, but I made do with what I had. She was partially famous for her long hair. It reached all the way to the ground and took several hours to take care of each day, which to me sounds like torture. I also wanted to use some of the stickers from my travel collection. I haven't had the chance to use them yet, and I thought that they would be perfect for this page. If you want to take a look at them, I'll leave a link below to where you can find them. I then added in a few more details with my Neocolor pastels. Before I sat down to do these pages, I actually created a little color palette for myself. I gathered all the pastels, the watercolor pencils, and the washi tapes that were in the color scheme that I knew I wanted to use. And that way I wouldn't get so stressed out, during the process trying to figure out what to use, because that is the biggest drawback for me on trying to sit down and actually do a project like this, is I get overwhelmed with what do I use and what do I put down on the page. So having it kind of all curated for me ahead of time really helped me out. All right, I finished the journaling spread by filling in the rest of the empty space with a bit of journaling. Once again, I didn't leave myself much room, so I had to be very brief. And my friends, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed our time together. Highly recommend a trip to Vienna if it's doable for you. We already know we want to go back while we're living here in Germany. We would love to get the experience of seeing an opera, maybe. I've never done that before, so I have no idea if I would even like that or not, but it would be fun at least to just dress up and go to the opera house. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!